Good afternoon and welcome to Women of the Bible. This section is the direct line to Jesus. And the two women that we will be talking about today is Sarai and Hagar, also known as Sarah and Hagar. Okay? Our reference for this is Genesis 11 to 30. Yes, that's a lot. You will find as we go through this that Sarah, also known as Sarai, they spell her name two different ways. The first way is Sarai, and the second is with an H instead of the I. The reason for that is they do actually change her name, and they mention changing her name at some point to Sarah. Okay, so let's get started. Sarah, also the meaning of her name is the mother of laughter. And this is specifically talked about in Genesis 20, verse 2, and Genesis 21, 1 through 7. Hagar is known as seeing the God who sees, okay, which is Genesis 16, 1 through 6, and Genesis 17, 5 through 19, and again, Genesis 21, 8 through 21, and lastly, Galatians 4, 21 through 31. It's a lot of sections that she's mentioned in, but she is mentioned. Now, as always, I give you thought questions. So let's take a look at this. And what would you do if you're told that you're going to have a kid at the age of 89 or 90? And you know you've been barren all these years. I can just see you walking through going, what? You gotta be kidding me. At 89, 90? You gotta be joking. Now, how faithful would you be if everything and everyone turns their backs on you? You're going to see that. How faithful to God would you be if everyone just turned their backs on you? Okay, so think about it. Now let's take a look at these ladies. Okay, there's Sarah. She is the half-sister and wife of Abraham. She cannot have children. Where Abraham leads, she follows. And I can just see the eyes rolling when her husband, her 75-year-old husband, walks into the tent and says, pack it up, we're moving to Canaan. Excuse me? Okay, off we go. She's promised a child by God. And she's known as the mother of laughter because she laughed at God when he told her she's going to have a child of her own. And then gives her that child at the age of 90, and then gives her a long life to the age of 125. It's according to most of the history. Let's take a look at Hagar. Now, she's an Egyptian slave to Sarah. Given to Abraham by Sarah, and thinking that this is going to give them the child that God promised. Now, she's pregnant. She runs away, comes back. But when she runs away, she meets God. And God gives her a directive to return to Sarah and Abraham. Now, that's the first time. The second time she leaves is when she and Ishmael, which means God hears, are sent away. Sarah was thinking that by getting Hagar pregnant with Abraham, she was speeding up God's timeline. Okay? And this is known as human intervention, not divine. So remember that. This is Sarah intervening where she has no business intervening. It is not God's divine will. Divine is when God actually provided Sarah with her child, Isaac, at the age of 90. Now, when the child is born, she really does laugh. She really, truly laughs. And she names him Isaac, meaning laughter. Now, Isaac and Ishmael grow up together. So they're playing, they're brothers, they're half-brothers. Like any half-brother or brother and sister, we pick on each other. That's not unusual. We do it all the time. Sometimes it comes to blows. There's disharmony that happens. And in this case, that's what happened. And in the long run, when you're reading through all of this, in the long run, it comes to pass that Sarah takes offense to Ishmael picking on Isaac, and therefore has Hagar and Ishmael sent away. Hagar walks the desert, and when it looks like all hope is gone, she puts her son in a shady spot because she has no water, no food, no way to care for him, and she sees he's dying. She puts him in a shady place and walks away. But she doesn't get very far before God intervenes and gives her water and shelter. God told her, Hagar, that he would make Ishmael into a great nation and that they would settle in the wilderness known as Paran. She lived, and her son provided her with no less than 12 grandkids. That's Hagar. Let's go back to Sarah. In case you haven't figured it out, Sarah's the direct line that we're looking at for direct line to Jesus, because she had Isaac, who is the next step in the line to Jesus. So let me give you some things to think about. Have you laughed recently so hard that your sides are hurting and tears are rolling down your face? I have. I did it when I went to the tulip fields. and fell in the mud, got dirty from head to toe. And my girlfriend and I, we were laughing so hard. What can you do? You're covered in mud. Enjoy. Looking at Hagar, faced with possibly losing her son, she's lost everything. She had the faith to ask God to take her son quickly because she knew she couldn't care for him any longer. How would you handle the grace and understanding of what God is giving to you? How did she do it? How can you apply how Hagar listened and followed God's wishes in something you are going through right now? Think about it. What are you going through right now? Are you listening? Are you asking God for help? There are two nations that come from Abraham's line, Isaac and Ishmael. Have you ever experienced a time when God actually came to you during your darkest moment and deepest trauma? I have. And in my time, it was my third miscarriage. So at that time, when God spoke, I listened. And it's one of the hardest things to go through is a dark, dark place and a deep, deep emotion and a deep, deep hatred and anger. And then to all of a sudden hear that one friendly voice come out of that darkness and pull you out. It's amazing. It's a God-given blessing. I hope that you have a God moment and God comes to you and He blesses you and continues to do so. Next up will be Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah. And they're in Genesis 24 through 28. That's Rachel. And Genesis 29 through 31 and Genesis 35. Until then, blessed be. And I hope you have a great time.